My name is Jose. The main claim that I will be refuting today is that the government and the food industries should not be blamed for obesity in the United States. Obesity is a problem that should be dealt with at home and through education, not at court or through denial. The advocate begins by backing up his claim with the supporting claims that first, consumers' personal choices play a major role in health conditions. Second, the government is already well involved in educating people. And last, that many people would rather put the fault with the fast food industries to avoid feeling guilty. I would like to start off with the advocate's main claim that the government and the food industry should not be blamed for obesity in the United States. Obesity is a problem that should be dealt with at home and through education, not through court or through denial. This is not a claim of fact, but a claim of policy, because he is suggesting for something to be done or to stop being done in his case. The advocate then supports his first secondary claim that consumers' personal choices play a major role in their health conditions by suggesting eating habits such as eating a salad instead of a burger or choosing Subway instead of McDonald's. Unfortunately, the advocate fails to concentrate on the main point of the secondary claim by not informing the audience on how consumers' personal choices are being influenced or altered. The media uses a variety of strategies to catch the viewer's attention and convincing him or her to purchase their foods. One may notice that all food advertisements show that the people eating their foods are having fun, being happy, and excessive use of bright colors is in play, and the music being played during TV advertisement is also used to catch the consumer's attention. In other words, the advocate fails to point out that the media affects personal choices, and these bad personal choices lead to bad health conditions. The advocate later supports his first secondary claim by stating that many would like to blame the government and corporations for this obesity crisis, but he fails to prove to the audience that there has been many cases where there are people blaming the government and corporations. He later states that you wouldn't want the government telling you when to sleep, so why would you want them telling you what to eat? This brings to the question, has there been someone who has wanted the government's involvement in his or her eating habits? Either way, it is not stated or with neither acceptable, sufficient, nor relevant proof. The advocate later supports his main claims with his secondary claim. The government is already involved in educating its people about health issues, such as being overweight, by showing what kind of measures have been taken to influence the kids about healthy eating habits in a positive way. He also states that public schools offer health education and schools are prohibiting the sale of foods with high fattening levels in their vending machines. Although this is true, advocate fails to point out that the children from ages 8 to 18 spend up to 44.5 hours weekly watching TV or in front of a computer screen. That is more than any other activity in their lifetime except for sleeping. And according to direct media advertising, Pepsi spent up to $1 million alone on advertising. Hershey's food spent up to $200 million, and in its peak year, the 5-a-day fruits and vegetable campaign total advertising budget in all media was a lowly $2 million. That's 100 times less than the one candy company. So there is, without any doubt, government involvement, just that they aren't doing enough to compete against the large fast food corporations. Therefore, coming to the conclusion that the media has a much larger influence on children of today's society than the school system. Finally, the advocate supports his main claim with his third secondary claim. Many people would rather put the fault with the fast food industry to avoid feeling guilt. But unfortunately, once again, the advocate fails to show evidence that this is taking place. This highly affects his argument because the lack of evidence only makes it seem as his personal opinion and not a fact. The advocate also states that corporations are not trying to get the consumer to gain weight, they are simply trying to do their job, which is to sell and make profit. Unfortunately, although not intended directly, corporations do affect weight gain because if their job is to sell as much as possible and they succeed in selling a lot of junk food, then most likely they are affecting the weight of their consumers. Some of the important factors that should also be addressed when looking at the cause for obesity besides poor eating and exercise habits are the effects of the media has on today's society, like advertisement on the freeways to advertisement before you can watch a YouTube video. Cultural customs that simply won't die out, and many medical reasons such as underactive thyroid gland, which causes excessive weight. To conclude, although matters should be taken in those of the parents, the government and food industries play a large role and deserve partial blame for the obesity crisis happening in the United States.
All right, if you listen carefully, you can hear some very good counterclaims in the argument here, which basically deal with the main premise of the advocate's point, and that is whether or not there's any governmental or corporate responsibility in this process. And you're not denying that there are other issues involved, and in fact, you acknowledge those kinds of things. But I think you do have a good strategy here in suggesting that the advocate's making the assumption that people are just using this as an escape, when in fact there is a contribution made by the government and by these companies. And then I thought you did a pretty good job outlining those kinds of things. You show the amount of money being spent by advertisers, the amount of time the kids are watching programming, the frequency with which advertising is used, the lack of government ability to counteract that by a small amount of money. I thought that was a very good strategy. I do think that you had a good point in the middle there where you were talking about how just access on television and through the advertising has this effect on people as well. So they might very well want to take responsibility, but the truth of the matter is that they're influenced by strategies that are used by the advertising. I think you could have used a little bit more evidence to support that point, but it's a very good response to that argument. The argument, I think, would be a little bit more solid if there was less reading and you simply talked to us and told us what the arguments were. Sometimes it just feels like you're zipping through the arguments, and then make a little contact with us, enhance your credibility that way.